So we've explored neuroception and we've explored hierarchy. And I want to venture into the world of co-regulation because it is an essential organizing principle of our nervous system. And I wanted to start with this image, which for me really feels like this co-regulating experience. We are inextricably linked, one nervous system to another. Now let's just take that in for a moment. We're wired to be with others. We're wired for connection. And as we begin, we're exploring how can we connect inside, but we're also exploring how do we connect to others, nervous system to nervous system. And what happens in the nervous system, this is the question the nervous system is always asking, is it safe to connect, right? Is it safe in this moment to come into connection? And we have these two things that are happening at all times. We have a longing for connection, right? Built into our biology, a longing for connection, and we have a drive to survive. And sometimes these work together. So it might be that, I want to reach out and come into connection with you. And my nervous system says, yes, safe enough. Ventral energy, let's do that. Oftentimes what happens is there's a longing to connect. So I can feel the longing, the loneliness perhaps, the wanting to reach out. But my nervous system says, doesn't feel safe, right? Too many cues of danger, neuroception of either danger or life threat. And I have a sympathetic response of run away or even fight, or that dorsal experience of I'm just going to collapse and not even try, give up, right? So this is going on in our nervous system at all times. And what we know is developmentally, co-regulation builds the platform for self-regulation. And with enough experiences of safe co-regulation, we can weather the times when co-regulation is unavailable, right? So when we are not around other people, when we have no way to reach out, if we have those experiences to draw on, then we self-regulate with ease, right? And for many of us, we came into the world with a need to be met by another ventral regulated nervous system, and that didn't happen. So co-regulation may be a missing experience for you in your world. And what I want to say is that that's okay. We can build these co-regulating experiences. We build self-regulation, we build co-regulation, and what the science shows us, which I think is so beautiful, is that our nervous system begins to reshape, right? That where we are in this moment in time can be changed. And that really is what we're learning to do over this module and over this course, is how do we reshape our patterns so we can have more patterns of connection, less patterns of protection. And we are in an ongoing conversation with our nervous system, right? Moment to moment, this is happening. We're sending out into the world cues of safety or danger, a warning or a welcome, and we're receiving from the world these cues of safety or danger, warnings or welcomes. We're continuously broadcasting and receiving. I love thinking about that. I'm always broadcasting and receiving, right? It feels both wonderful to me and also humbling to know that this is always happening. It's a great responsibility that happens here if I know I'm always putting out into the world what's happening inside for me. But our work is to stay tuned into the autonomic conversation that's happening. And again, this is an image. I do love image, and I encourage you all to play with image, to find images that speak to your nervous system. This is an image for me that really feels welcoming, feels as if we're invited into connection. Right? When we receive these cues of safety, we feel what I call an autonomic welcome. Yes, they're often words or they're gestures, but our nervous system, on a biological level, we feel welcomed to come into connection. And we feel safe to co-regulate with another, with nature, with spirit, even co-regulate with our own internal world. So here's an image again that for me represents this autonomic warning when I'm getting cues of danger from another nervous system, and I see the sympathetic hand that's fiery and the dorsal hand that's collapsed and it's watery, not holding shape. right? So our reactivity increases and we enter into our own adaptive survival responses when we feel these warnings coming from another nervous system, coming from the world around us. This is what happens. And notice I put adaptive in front of survival responses. Another thing we want to take away from this. When we think about survival responses, we always want to put the word adaptive in front of them because in the moment they were created, they were necessary. They were necessary in service of our survival. And they may not be as necessary now, but the nervous system is still responding in that way. So adaptive survival responses. And if we think about what we call the social engagement system, this is this face-heart connection. This is your ventral vagal pathway connecting with other cranial nerves. And in this image, the pathway that's going to the heart is your ventral vagal circuit. And then you can see how it joined in the brainstem with these other cranial nerves that help us connect through our eyes, ears, voice, face, and head movements. And I want to take just a moment to explore each of these and think about how do we send messages of welcome or warning through these circuits. So let's think about eyes and think about the ways our eyes send messages, right? And the nervous system looks at the top third of your face to first find its cues. It will look to the rest of the face for facial expression and to your mouth. But in its first search, it looks here, the top third of the face, right? And one of the ways this has been reassuring to me is that even behind masks, we see the top third of the face and we can get a sense, an autonomic sense of what's happening. Is this person sending me a welcome or a warning by the way that I'm looking here? It's the orbicularis oculi, which is a muscle that goes around your eyes. It's where we get these lovely wrinkles, right? I mean, they're called crow's feet or the wrinkles around your eyes. Those come because your orbicularis oculi moves the muscles around your eyes, right? And I like to think that those wrinkles around your eyes are telling an autonomic story, right? So I kind of like my wrinkles. They're for me, they're sending out into the world a welcome, right? Through my eyes and through my wrinkles. And then if we think about ears, right? Our ears take in sounds that are feeling safe or unsafe, right? Our ears through our middle ear muscles, which is the way there's a connection to the autonomic nervous system, listen to the soundscapes that are around us. So if you listen for a moment to the soundscape, which is the general sense of sound around you in this moment, and just take a moment and listen and see, is this soundscape inviting of my ventral regulation, or is it bringing me into a place of survival energy? So listen for a moment. And then inside a soundscape are what we call sound marks. So the sound marks are the particular sounds that you're going to hear inside this general soundscape. So listen to your soundscape and see if you can find sound marks within it that bring you a sense of feeling regulated and safe, or that take you into sympathetic fight, flight, survival energy, or even into dorsal disappear, float away. And again, I would encourage you to return to this practice of listening to your soundscape and finding sound marks and keep track of them, because then what we can do to help find regulation for ourselves is to notice, what are the soundscapes? Where are they? Where are the environments that bring me a soundscape where I feel regulated, safe, connected, ready to engage? And within that, what are the sound marks that really bring that ventral energy to life, that bring me a neuroception of safety? We can begin to identify those. We can have more of those. We can bring more in. We can go find those. This is a way that we can regulate. And then when you find the soundscapes that feel as though they bring some sort of survival energy, can you spend less time in those? Do you have to be in those? Or within that, can you find the soundscapes that bring that alive? And can we do something with the sound marks? Sorry, the sound marks. Can you find the sound marks? And can you change them in some way? Can you reduce them? Can you take them out? Is there a way to manage them differently? Because the sound environment, the sonic environment is so bringing of either ventral sense of, oh, I'm safe, I'm regulated, I can move through the world, I can navigate in a way that feels okay, or it's going to bring survival energy. So that's the way your ears are taking this in. And then voice, the prosody of voice, that's what I call the music of your voice, the patterns, the rhythm, the tone of voice. And voice is such a way that we send a welcome or a stay away warning, right? And it's not the words. The nervous system listens to the intonation, listens to the prosody of voice before it ever takes in any information. So if my tone of voice feels welcoming to your nervous system, sends an autonomic welcome, nervous system to nervous system, you're then going to be able to tune in and listen to the information. If my voice brings a neuroception of danger, of unsafety, you're going to really have to work hard to even take in the information. So I'm going to invite you for a moment to think of someone in your world who you have regular connection with, whose voice really brings you to that place of feeling welcome, where you then feel regulated and you can engage with the world. And bring that person to mind. And you can begin to be curious about what is it about that voice, right? Is there a certain tone? Is there a way they use their voice that it moves? Is there a frequency? Is it high or low? For me, what works? What brings that welcome? And then let's do the opposite, because we're always looking for both safety and unsafety. Think of someone in your world whose voice kind of feels like it's a challenge to your nervous system. You have to work hard. It feels more of a warning. It feels a bit, it brings you a sense of feeling ill at ease, right? And just notice, what is it about that voice, right? You can compare and contrast, which I think is another thing that's important for us as we're moving through this program. We need experiences to compare and contrast, right? So if I have an experience of a welcome from a voice and a warning from a voice, I then have a way to compare those, contrast those, and get information about that. And then finally, let's go to face and head movements. I notice I've been moving my head a bit. It feels very, very good, to move. And head nods, are a way that we feel as though people are traveling with us, right? So I can't see any of you, but I'm going to imagine in this moment that you are all nodding your head. Yes, I'm with you, Deb, right? And then I can feel that. That helps me regulate, right? Even if you're doing this, right? Even, no, I don't get that. It's okay, because I feel like you're on the journey with me. It's a straight, unmoving head that sends a biological warning to another nervous system, right? You notice it's really hard to talk without moving your head. I'm going to try and teach for about 30 seconds without moving my head. Right? And I notice what happens inside my system. I begin to feel stuck. I feel a rigidity, which then takes me into a survival state. Notice what happens for you as I'm teaching without moving my head. What's happening in your nervous system, right? And then I'm going to let my head move, because that feels so much better, right? A bit of a tilt to the head, and just notice what happens to you as I move again, right? It feels like I'm here. I'm with you. That my movement lets you know, oh, yes, I'm alive. Movement, lets us know an organism is alive. So as I move my head, right, as I move my face, it's sending you that welcome. And I wanted to give you this sheet with prompts, right, so that you can go through and I sort of identify for yourself. Because again, this is about getting really concrete, understanding specifically what are the signals that are sent from another person to me that bring that warning. And so you can go through these prompts. You can bring up a person and think their eyes, voice, face, and gestures. What is it about them that tells me to keep my distance? We want to get really specific here. And then we want to know what it is that we put out in the world that does the same thing. How do I put a warning out into the world through my eyes, voice, face, and gestures, telling others stay away? Right? And it's important for us to really understand how this works. So these are the warnings, and then I imagine you know where we're going next. We're going to go to the welcomes because we need to know this as well. Right? So what are the signals that another person sends to you that feel welcoming? What is it about their eyes, their voice, their face, and their gestures that sends that invitation to connection? Right? What specifically is it? Again, we want to be very concrete here. And then how do we send that out to another person? Right? What is it about the ways our eyes, voice, face, and gestures invite others? And then practice sending those signs of welcome out into the world. Right? And the signs of warning and welcome are interesting to do with another person. So you might find someone to explore with you. Right? Especially the signs of welcome. If I know I'm intending to send a welcome, is that other person receiving that? Right? And the warning as well. I simply want to have a glance, have a look that you get, stay away. Is that what is being received? So you might find someone to go through these prompts with you and begin to get to know how you're experiencing someone and how you're being experienced in the world. And I'd like to end this section by taking you on the face-heart connection journey. We're going to do this meditation that really helps us understand this face-heart connection. So close your eyes if that feels safe, or simply soften your gaze. Place your hands at the base of your skull. Here in the brainstem is the evolutionary origin of your social engagement system. Focus your attention on the place where your brainstem meets your spinal cord, the place where 5 cranial nerves come together to form the pathways of your face-heart connection. This is the hub of your social engagement system. Rest here for a moment and sense the beginnings of your quest for connection. And now move your hands, placing one hand on the side of your face and the other hand over your heart. Feel the flow of energy moving between your hands, traveling from your face to your heart and your heart to your face. Follow this pathway in both directions. Explore the ways your face-heart connection searches for contact and signals safety. Sense this system reaching out into the world, listening for sounds of welcome, looking for friendly faces, turning and tilting your head, seeking safety, and feel your heart joining in the search. And now feel this system broadcasting signals of safety. Your eyes, your voice, your head movements, inviting others into connection. Your heart sending its own welcome. Move between the two experiences of sending and searching, broadcasting and receiving, and take some time to savor the pathways of your face-heart connection. So I want to finish this module with this Thich Nhat Hanh quote: "Earth will be safe when we feel in us enough safety." And what I like to think when I think about that quote, I look at it through the lens of our nervous system, is that Earth will be safe when we feel in us enough ventral anchoring, when we each have enough ability to come to that place of ventral regulation. So I want to leave you with these 4 guiding questions and invite you to attend to these over this next month. The first being, what state am I in? That's where we need to begin. And you can use your personal profile map to come to recognize the state you're in. Right? We'll do the map and we'll do a notice and name practice in that guided experience. So you can use that to say, what state am I in this moment? Right? And the second question is, what do I need to be anchored in ventral? Right? Remembering that ventral is this essential ingredient. I need a critical mass of ventral. So what do I need in this moment so that I can be anchored there? I can come to ventral and move through the world and offer that energy to the world. So that's where we start. We always start with our own system. And then from that place of enough ventral regulation, I can look out at the other person and wonder, where are they? Where is this other person? Where has their nervous system taken them? Right? And I can begin to be curious about, I wonder what state they're in. Right? And I may not know, but I'm looking for some signs, those emergent qualities of sympathetic anxiety and anger, or dorsal despair, giving up, or ventral, here, engaged, ready to connect. And then the next question, the last question we're going to think about is, what does this other person's nervous system need in this moment? What does it need? Right? Does it need me to come and offer ventral? Or does it need me simply to be around? Or does it need me to offer an explicit invitation to come into connection? Right? This is where our curiosity takes us. What does their nervous system need in this moment to begin to find the way to safety and connection? So as we reach the end of this module, I'd like to encourage you to engage with the practices over the next month. And I wanted to let you know that we make change. Our nervous system reshapes by doing small things over and over. It doesn't happen in one great big moment. And the research tells us that we do reshape our nervous system. We have more access to ventral, and we return to ventral more quickly. We stay there longer. We are there more often. But that happens by engaging in practices over and over and over. So we might set an intention around practices over the next month. And what I'd like to invite you to think about is setting an intention in partnership with your nervous system. Right? Your brain at this point, you've gone through these modules, and your brain may be saying, oh, I'm going to do this practice. I really liked this one. I'm going to do this 3 times a day, every day. Right? Or your brain may be saying, oh, I'm going to do this every day for the next month. What I'd like you to do is write down that intention, whatever intention comes first. Write it down and then read it and then say it out loud. And as you say it out loud, notice how your nervous system responds. Does your nervous system say, oh yes, I can stay anchored in ventral with this? Or does your nervous system say, oh my gosh, no way can I do this? Or does your nervous system just simply disconnect and say, not even going to try? Right? So we want to set in this experience an autonomic intention. And I also want to remind you that the nervous system doesn't get reshaped on the principle of no pain, no gain. Right? The nervous system says, if you challenge me too much, I can't stay in ventral. I will go to sympathetic or dorsal. And once we enter those survival states, the system closes to any change. So when your nervous system says, oh, this is enough. Today I can do this practice once. Tomorrow I can't engage with that practice. Maybe the next day, oh, I want to do this one twice today. Listen to what your nervous system is telling you. This work takes patience and persistence. It takes knowing when your nervous system is saying, yes, move forward, and when it's saying, no, thank you, right? So really what we're doing is we're learning to honor the wisdom of our own nervous systems.